wisdom, student enrollment. That's what the class of God students enrolling. Supreme wisdom, I study it hard. The study of myself is the study of God. Supreme wisdom, write your letter, get your X. Supreme wisdom, that's what you'll be getting next. Supreme wisdom, some call it the lessons, but I call it life, actual facts, no guessing.
And so, well, here's mine. Okay, well, one of my slides got a little, but again, to recap and overview, so for week 1, we did an introductory / review of the Making of Devil, wherein we read the Making of Devil section in the Message to the Black Man, which is on pages 103 through 122, and then afterward, we took an assessment on what we had just read. On week 2, we dealt with Yaqub. We looked into the Bible and looked at the story of Jacob and Esau, and we also studied the law of unlike track. And in week 3, which was last week, we went over the actual process of making a devil. So we took a scientific look at Yaqub's grafting process. And today, which is the last final week of this foundation class on the making of devil, we will go over the 6,000 year rule of the devil. Now, I would just like to make this statement. I thought that I was going to be able to cover 6,000 years in one meeting, but I thought to myself, you know, that was a lot. It's going to take another maybe 4, 8, who knows how long to really go over, because that's a long period of time to go over in one class and to really delve into every point. So this is kind of a wide, broad stroke over that, and specifically keep it in line with that section, because if you notice, for the past 4 weeks, I tried to keep the class within the bounds of these pages. And so if you notice, we started off with introduction. We went over the whole thing, then we went back and went to the beginning, because it all began with Yaqub, the making of devil. It began with Yaqub, so we dealt with Yaqub by himself, and afterwards we dealt with the next phase where he actually made the devil. And so this week we're going to deal with, you know, Yaqub's grafted devil after Yaqub, because during that 600-year process, we know that Yaqub only lived to be 150 years old. So he didn't see the end of this process, but his process was ultimately successful because those who were his followers kept to his literature. But going back to the Message to the Black Man, if you remember what we read in those pages, is that after Yaqub's devil was grafted all the way to white, they were instructed, once they became unlike, to go back to the Holy Land, right? So after they were made on that island, they went back to where they came from. And then when they went back to where they came from, that kicked off a whole nother sequence of events where they caused trouble in the holy city, right? And in 6 months, that Yaqub's grafted devil, he caused the people to fight. You know, they were. If we could go back to if you have your Message to the Black Man, you can go back to it. But where the wives, the women, you know, Yaqub's grafted devil, the women of them were told to rent a room in the holy people's home, and then tell the wife that, you know, I overheard this person talking about you, and then they would spread a rumor, and then it would cause them to have strife amongst each other. And in 6 months, they were able to cause the holy people to fight each other. And so that's what we're going to deal with on that part. We're going to go over that. So, Brother Mallet, so do you remember what happened after they were, the Yaqub's grafted devil caused the righteous people to fight each other? You remember what happened?
They were fighting after they had chaos among themselves and confusion after 6 months. That the grafted devil had started the room or started spreading the gospel. Untrue about what was happening out of mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and they started the fight, man. They started the fight.
Right. You remember what happened after they started fighting? What ended up happening ultimately after they had started fighting?
Oh, they were actually expelled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you tell me.
The devil was expelled.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were kicked out of the Holy Land.
Yeah.
Right.
And off into you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So after they caused trouble, after they were found out for causing trouble, they were
Yeah.
rounded up and kicked out.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they were sent to their exile in Europe. That's right. Sister Deborah, what happened after the Yaqub's grafted devil was exiled from the Holy Land to Europe?
Well, they, when they were exiled, they were taking all their clothes off and they put a little apron on them. They cable tied them and they sent them across the hot desert.
Right.
So I'm assuming many of them didn't make it across the desert, so they died. So the strongest of the devils that made it across the desert, they went to the caves and hillsides of Europe, and then what happened is that they went savage.
Mm-hmm.
They lost the knowledge of themselves. The only thing that they were able to take with them was the language.
That's right.
But it's not written, but the language may mean something else because they started going savage. And from what I understand, they got down on all fours, started eating raw meat. You know, they didn't know how to bury the dead. They didn't know how to make a house for themselves. So from what I heard Minister Ava said, they actually were starting to bark like animals and started to be like, you know, the beasts of the field, so to speak.
So they went through a period of gross darkness where
Yes,
they went savage and they, you know, lost the knowledge of themselves, right?
Yeah.
And Sister Mademoiselle, what happened after they were exiled and they went to Europe or were kicked out into Europe, and then they went savage? What happened after that?
After they were saved, Musa.
Okay. And when did Musa come? That's right. He came 2,000 years after. So from the time that they were kicked out, there was a 2,000-year period where they were living in savagery, and then Musa came. That is a long time.
That's a long time.
That's 1/3 of the time that they've been here on Earth. 1/3 of the time that they've been here, they were just savages.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I heard that they didn't really realize civilization until the revelation of the Quran came back in the Renaissance period.
Oh yeah. They had many periods of where they would be exposed to knowledge, and they would go through periods of enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
And they would go from, you know, enlightenment, kind of, they would fall back some, then they would be re-enlightened and go through this process over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Right. Good point. Good point. But, okay, so like you all said, so after the Yaqub's grafted devil finished the process and became white, they went back to the Holy Land. They caused trouble amongst the righteous people. Then they were kicked out or expelled from the Holy Land, and then they were marched across the land, and then they were bottled up in Europe. And so for 2,000 years, they were living as savages in Europe, and that was until Musa came, right? Moses came. Then after Musa came, what did Musa teach them?
Teach them about civilization.
That's right.
Yeah. Or about how to walk.
That's right. That's right. Because even the messenger in the message of the black man, he said they had gone to a point where they were walking on all fours, right?
Yeah.
Just like the animals.
Yeah.
Grew hair over their bodies, you know.
And how to take bath and how to cook their food.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so what else was taught to them in addition to civilization?
The tricks.
Anybody?
Yeah. Tricks and lies.
They were taught the tricks and lies. Exactly. They were taught some of the tricks and lies of the tricknology that Yaqub taught them, right?
They were taught how to live a civilized life, how to cook their food, how to build homes for themselves, and like we're taught lessons, some of the forgotten trick knowledge.
That's right. Because in that, oops, we have technical difficulty. Okay, well, I guess I can, in the meantime, I can go out, don't come this way. I was gonna try to slip through my slide that I had out of order. I can fix that while that's being done. You gonna turn it back on?
She can just cut that out. You can cut that
I mean, this is class, it happens.
out. Okay.
I know, I do.
All right. So, obviously there's some learning that's going on in this class, right? Because you're able to, recite the history,
Yeah.
of Yahu's grafted people, just off the top of your head, just with a few classes, we're able to be able to understand something about, these fundamental knowledges that we have to know.
Supreme wisdom, some call it the lessons, but I call it life, actual facts, no guessing.